hidden beneath a cracked, non-original shell, a Game Boy Advance SP struggles to shine. Its screen remains dark, a silent cry for help. Join me as we shed light on this retro classic and bring its screen back to life. Let's fire up a timer and dive into reviving this retro handheld. Time to unscrew the battery compartment and get that battery out. With the battery compartment empty, we turn our attention to the screws. This isn't your standard setup. We've got a mix of Phillips and a lone tri-wing screw. That's a clear sign we're not dealing with an original case. It seems like it should come apart now, but still holding on tight. Alright, let's track down that last sneaky screw and get it out of there. This blue foil is not original either. 3 more screws want to be removed. Let's do that. Gently opening it up like a book now, we've got to be mindful of that ribbon cable that's still tethered inside. We'll use a spudger to release it. The ribbon cable seems intact at a closer look. Let's swab it down with some 99% IPA for a good clean. Time to reattach the screen and check if our cleaning effort has made a difference. We will fold this over and snap the cover back into place to reconnect the battery. Powering it on now, and it looks like we're still at square one. No change. Alright, we'll give it a go with the back off, simply pressing the battery to the contacts. Not working. Let's try to insert a game cartridge in this beauty. Upon closer inspection, a faint Game Boy logo emerges on the screen. Oh, we get some tunes. Nice! To examine the screen directly, we'll need to detach it from the shell, which requires removing all the button membranes. Let's use the pointed end of our trusty spudger to pry out the 5 rubber pads concealing the screws that hold our screen in place. Time to unscrew these 5 and move forward. By the way, these screws are Phillips heads. Now let's gently separate the 2 halves. They should come apart easily. Ah, the culprit. A hidden screw beneath the ribbon cable. Always one last defender of the fortress. Here we go. The ribbon cable seems perfectly intact, not that anyone's consulting me on it. We'll use the spudger to pry the screen free. The adhesive's hold is mild, so lifting the screen out is straightforward. Here we can see the main board and the screen connector. We'll give the connector a good scrub with some IPA and a brush to make sure it's spotless. Let's slot the screen back in to delve deeper into the diagnosis. Boot it up and see what happens. The power switch might be clogged with dirt, leading to malfunctions. I'll dab a bit of isopropyl alcohol on a cotton swab and work it into the switch to cleanse it. This does not help at all. Let's get our trusty microscope camera to examine the connector closely. Under the microscope camera, we have a much better view of what is going on. What is that? Looks like the marks of a screwdriver or something. The big long thing on the screen is our LCD connector. It looks enormous under the microscope camera. We'll test each pin with a pointed tweezer, applying just enough pressure to confirm they're secure. If they stay put, they're all set. All pins are solid, so this should be fine. We'll give the rest of the board a quick visual once over to ensure there are no other issues. So far, I can't see any damage, like a burnt component or something similar. The button, irresistibly inviting, just had to be pressed.
Time to hit the button!
You're probably wondering about the underside of the board. Don't worry, we'll get to that part of the story soon enough. The connector's inner plastic has an unusual upward warp. Could this be part of the issue? We'll give the LCD ribbon cable a thorough once-over with the microscope, ensuring we catch any hidden issues. I'm pretty sure that the connections are not broken. Here's a little extra for you. Ever wondered what an LCD screen looks like up close? Let's zoom in with the Microscope Camera and take a look. Alright, let's move on from the fascinating close-up and refocus on the task at hand. It's quite strange, but a firm press on the connector with our finger, and voila, the image is crisp and clear. We've inspected every single pin and they all look fine. The ground pads on the connector are also in pretty good condition, which is reassuring. Let's try adding a strip of tape to the backside of the ribbon cable. This might just give it the extra thickness needed to ensure the pins make a better contact inside the connector. We'll carefully trim off any extra tape, making sure not to damage the ribbon cable itself. Now we'll reinsert the ribbon cable to test it. With the added thickness, it's challenging to get it into the slot. Unfortunately, this approach isn't working out. The tape is preventing the cable from fitting properly into the connector. We'll apply some heat to the connector and then nudge it back into its original shape for a snugger fit.
And now, get in shape with the exercise.
It seems promising and everything is perfectly aligned now. That's more like it. Let's check it out if something changed. Despite our efforts, the connector remains a puzzle. It's toying with us. Time to retin the ground pads just in case. By the way, the liquid I applied was flux. It helps the solder flow and should be used every time. Despite our attempts, the issue persists, which can be quite disheartening. In the next 15 minutes, I'll be skipping ahead because it's just me trying different things to solve the problem. Unfortunately, during these tests, I ended up damaging the connector beyond repair. It seems this diabolic device demands a new connector, so I'll have to order a replacement to exercise this issue. Here we have the new connectors, fresh off the delivery truck. I grabbed a pair because, let's be honest, when I'm in the repair zone, things can get a little wild. Let's restart the timer to keep track of this journey. Back under the microscope we go, to remove the old damaged connector. We'll apply a liberal dose of flux to the connector. Flux is a game changer in soldering, turning tough jobs into smooth operations. Here we see low melt solder. It's excellent for desoldering as it blends with the existing unleaded solder, allowing us to remove the connector at lower temperatures. Minimizing heat is crucial to protect the PCB, also known as a printed circuit board. We'll now spread the low-melt solder liberally over each of the connector's joints, ensuring it blends well with the existing solder. We're going to use our hot air station to remove the connector, employing a metal shield as a safeguard for the board's other components, particularly those susceptible to melting from the heat. Let's place a 50-cent coin on the left side, serving as an extra layer of protection. We will now heat the connector with the hot air until it gets loose. Once it's loose, we can gently lift it away with a pair of tweezers. Next, we'll clean the area with some isopropyl alcohol to remove any residual flux. This little piece of solder could cause severe damage. It is good that we have found it. Before we proceed, we'll need to clear away all the low melt solder. This is solder wick. It is essentially a sponge for solder, absorbing the excess to prepare the surface for the new connector. Always move the solder wick in the direction of the pads to avoid lifting them, which is the last thing we want to happen. After some cleaning, we are good to go for the replacement part. We'll apply fresh flux to the pads to ensure a clean solder, then carefully position the new connector on the board, making sure it's perfectly aligned. Let's dab a small amount of solder onto our soldering iron's tip, prepping it for a smooth soldering process. Securing the connector firmly is essential before soldering. It's a delicate balance to maintain its position for a clean solder without the aid of tweezers. Once a few pins on each side are securely soldered, we can proceed to solder the remaining pins with confidence. Regularly cleaning the soldering iron tip ensures optimal performance and cleaner solder joints. If you're facing stubborn solder blobs, it might be time to turn up the heat. A hotter soldering iron can often make the difference, ensuring smoother solder application. In such scenarios, flux can be a real lifesaver, so don't hesitate to apply it generously. It can make all the difference. If a solder blob is proving to be a persistent specter, lure it into the solder wick's embrace, much like trapping a ghost that refuses to rest. That works like a charm. Got it, that particular blob met its fate later on in the repair journey. Time to solder the anchor points on either side of the connector to ensure it's firmly in place. Let's gently nudge each pin with a dental pick. If it stands firm without wiggling, we've nailed the soldering. Everything's looking top-notch. We really aced this task. Let's tidy up with some IPA, give it a scrub with the brush, and dab it dry with a cosmetic tissue. This looks pretty good. Time to put the new connector to the test and see if it's the game changer we've been hoping for. Oh, come on. After all that effort on the connector, it turns out it's not to blame? What a twist! Might the capacitor be the prankster in our board game of repairs? I'm caught in a bit of a capacitor conundrum. The one I need is a compact 4V 100 microfarad, but all I've got is a 25V giant that just won't fit in the space provided. We'll remove the old capacitor and for now, swap in a through-hole variant. Its bendy legs give us the freedom to place it wherever it fits best. It's not pretty, but it helps us rule out one more component. Instead of the battery, I provide the voltage directly through my lab power supply. Despite the swap, the issue's still there, taunting us. Repairing can be such a roller coaster. What else could be the problem? Back to square one, I sifted through each clue, feeling more like a detective than a repairman. Each dead end wasn't just a setback, it was a hint steering me closer to the elusive solution. What was the missing piece in this electronic puzzle? I was on the case, ready to uncover it. Alright, let's switch to detective mode and examine the board under the microscope. Every detail could be the clue we need. A suspicion is creeping in about this particular component. Time to probe each leg to ensure they're making solid contact with the board.
Aha!
Looks like we have finally found our fault.
Oh man, what a shame.
I should have started with a full inspection. This overlooked backside of the board is a reminder that cutting corners on the initial check can lead to a wild goose chase. Always scrutinize every inch. It's the detective work that often cracks the case early. Refreshing the solder on this tiny transformer's legs could be the key. It's a crucial component that steps voltage up or down for the system. Reverting to the original capacitor is the sensible move until we can source the correct replacement. It's a temporary step to maintain the integrity of the repair. Let's switch the multimeter to capacitance mode and take a closer look. This looks promising. We're hovering right around the 100 microfarad mark. But do you think it will work? Let's find out. Nice, it's working perfectly. I'm incredibly relieved that we've identified and rectified the cause. Now the true test awaits. Let's see if the system will boot up with a game and truly stand up to the challenge. Boom! These are brilliant news because it means we can dive into some awesome mods for this beauty in upcoming videos. Keep an eye out for the upcoming Game Boy Advance SP mods and happy tinkering. Not a world record, but time well spent.